Hi there, James from Active IQ here. I'm the Head of Digital Learning, and I'm lucky enough today to grab a few minutes with Dr. Paul Bedford, aka the Retention Guru, to ask him a few questions about the upcoming Retention Convention for 2020, which Active IQ is really proud to be sponsoring this year. So how are you doing, Paul? Great to see you.
James, I'm fine. I'm probably as frustrated as everybody else about being in lockdown again. Yeah. And just, I suppose, working from home, trying to crack on with things. Organising an event from one place rather than going out and seeing people. So yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Good, yeah. Frustrating, but we'll get there. Hopefully there's an end in sight. All good. Excellent. So you've already alluded to, you're super busy, I'm sure, planning and putting together this year's Retention Convention. So I guess to kick us off and let our viewers and our training providers, centres, their staff, their learners know, what is the Retention Convention for anybody who doesn't know what it is? And, you know, who should really be attending this year?
All right. So the Retention Convention is an event we've been running for the past 6 years. And I've been fortunate through my career in the fitness industry to travel internationally and speak at lots of different events around the world. But the focus of my business and what I do day to day is helping businesses keep their customers for longer. And when you go to a lot of the big international shows, you see some good speakers, but you might have a speaker talk about sales, and then someone does marketing, and then someone does a retention session, and there's something on technology, and you get little clips of what's going on. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to host an event that was purely focused on retention and the customer experience, and where I could bring in the best speakers in the world for a single day. And that's what we've been doing traditionally. It's usually only a small event for 150 people. And we pretty much always run it in Birmingham. And we have streamed it live in the past internationally. But it's this real educational day. There's no pitching from the stage. No one's talking about products unless they're talking about them, how they've used them to improve what's going on in their businesses. And it really is just this small community, which has grown massively recently, that focus on how you keep your customers for longer.
Yep. And in terms of speakers who you mentioned, I've seen the lineup. What kind of led you to get this year's lineup of those speakers that you've got?
Well, the speakers I've got, I've seen all of them speak before. And because we're able to go virtual this year, or we're having to go virtual this year, one of the things I've been able to do is actually invite more international speakers, because we can prepare and get everything ready, and we don't have all the issues with travel. But I've got 5 speakers who I believe can talk about the topic of building communities and improving retention, because they've all done it, and they've done it in the businesses they work within. So we've got a lineup of 5 key speakers. The first one is Amanda from Australia. I've known Amanda for years. She has her own boutique called Soulful Fitness, which is predominantly a yoga studio, but it's 2-time winner of the Boutique of the Year in Australia. And you can imagine the competition she's got. And she's rated as the #1 boutique in Australia. She's going to talk about what she does in her business and what she's been doing during COVID. Then you've got Lauren Moat from the UK, who works for Energy Fitness, the franchise organisation. She's going to talk about how you build a community on 2 levels. So you have to build the franchise community, and then the franchisees have to build their community in their clubs. And she's going to talk about what they do to support that process in their business. Our third speaker is Gillian Reeves. Gillian spent 7 years with Virgin Active as their national director for group exercise, and she was also involved in a lot of their product development. And she wants to talk about how you use group exercise to build community, but also she's now got her own independent yoga studio, and she wants to talk about what she's learned from working in a big operation and what you can use in a small operation and what you can't, and the diversity of that situation. Our fourth speaker is Stacey Van Diver. Stacey's based in Baltimore. She's been involved in the industry a long time. She's also from Group X, And Stacey's going to talk about her experience of embedding group exercise programs into multi-site businesses and what you need to do to build that community of your teachers who teach your product. Because often that is, again, it's a removed process. So she can talk about that. And then finally, we've got Marissa Hoff, who I've known for a very long time. Marissa was the general manager of a business called Stevenson Fitness in California. And Stevenson Fitness, run by a gentleman called Chris Stevenson, was ranked as the #1 independent operator in the US. And they consistently had net promoter scores of over 90.
Wow.
You know, consistently.
Yeah.
And she's going to talk about how they built their community using social media and digital platforms. So we've got a real mix of experience and a real mix of content, but all based on the topic of how do you improve community, how do you turn customers into community, and in order to retain them longer.
Yeah. No, I mean, community never been more important, I guess, than the situation we're in right now with the global pandemic and all of the knock-on effects and issues that's thrown in our sector's way, so to speak. So yeah, a hugely important subject, I'm sure, not just for leisure operators and health club operators, I'm assuming, but a broader audience, would you say?
Yeah, and I think, you know, the bizarre thing is James, I invited Marissa to speak March 2019. And I told her then that the event would be about communities. And I said, we're going to do a whole event just focused on communities. And she's like, I'm in. And now we're in the pandemic, and that's become even more important. And I think what we're seeing is that the value of a community to, you know, and I'm sorry if it's a bit of a cliche or a bit tired at the moment, but it's like, reduce your issues in terms of stress and improve your mental health. That sense of belonging, connectedness, rather than being isolated. We've seen a lot on the political scene throughout the year, not just during COVID, you know, where people have been fractious and there's been groups. And so now what we need to do is we think, if we want things to work for us, we need to build our communities. Now that could be in a club environment, it could be in an online environment, it could be an education environment. You know, how are you building your community with your students? How are you with your college or as a training provider? How are you making those people that have in the past been your customers part of your community? And what are you doing to support them going forward?
100%. And, you know, the lineup that you've got, that's quite a powerful statement as well. All female lineup. One of the first I've seen, I think, in our sector. Was that intentional or by accident? Or
it was intentional. Obviously, I started with Marissa, and I actually had a couple of other speakers in mind, but they've not been able to contribute at this time. But I wanted to show that our industry does have a lot of strong women and a lot of strong women presenters. And you know, when we've done the retention convention in the past, we've had a mixed lineup. One year where we did technology, we had an all-male lineup, and someone called me out about it. Someone said, "You've only got men." And I said, well, I've had female presenters talk about technology in the past, and I'm not bringing back the same people. But I said, you know, I'm looking for the very best that I can find, whether they're male or female, if they can talk about retention. And when I looked at the people I thought could talk about community most effectively, this was the lineup. And I'm actually quite proud that we've got an all-female lineup, but we're not promoting it as a women in fitness type event. This is the retention convention. This year, it just happens that all 5 speakers are women, including, we've also got some bonus content that we're going to add to recordings, which are some additional women speakers who are going to present content that we haven't got time for on the actual day. So yeah, it was a conscious choice. But I think they have the right to be there. They're great presenters.
On merit, yeah, definitely. Excellent stuff. And then I guess that leads us to, we've had a discussion about the convention, obviously when you were kind of talking to us about sponsoring this year's event, and you were really keen for it to not follow the trend that we've all become accustomed to of the typical Teams, Zoom, Skype, Hangouts type meeting. So could you just tell those listeners, viewers, what's going to be a little bit different about this event?
Yeah, well, what we're aiming to do is, and I think having you know, I've spoken at more than 150 international events live, and I think I've now done 23 conferences while we've been in lockdown since March.
Mhm.
And what I come across a lot of the time is almost, I'm going to call it almost like that Muppets approach, where you've got all these boxes with heads in, and you ask a question, and you get to answer one question, and then they move on to someone else. So you don't really get anything in depth. So when we talk about the retention convention, we thought, what do we traditionally do? Well, we traditionally have 5 speakers on stage providing content, and that's done as a PowerPoint, and they interact with the audience. Now, on my experience is, I don't think it's possible to replicate that live experience online. And I've even been at events where when you're watching the event, they've got fake heads in the bottom of the screen to make it look like you're sitting in the audience and having to look over people. I'm thinking that let's just accept online is different from real life. So what I said to the presenters was, I want to do something different. I want to sort of, I suppose, zhuzh it up a little bit, make it a little bit more dynamic. And so I sent them a video clip and said, what I want you to do is I want you to make your presentations, and I want you to do them in a documentary style if you can. And look, I can't promise that they're all going to be in a documentary style, but what I wanted was more than just a talking head, or more than just a picture of a round little circle in the corner and there's some slides over the top. So if it's all right with you, can I just show you a little clip from one of my clients of what they did and what they put together when we were doing some workshops?
The Still Me project is a project that is funded by Loughton District Hospice. It is to engage people with any life-altering condition and also their carers. We do lots of different activities for everyone to enjoy, and we run weekly sessions, some bi-weekly sessions all across the district.
So I think you get from that sense that, look, that was professionally made. That was a film crew that came in and made that as a video to explain what they do in the Still Me project. But I've said to the other presenters, use that as a guide. Use that as I'm going to show some video clips. I'm going to show something historical. I'm going to show pictures. I'm going to use slides, and I'm going to tell a story rather than just heads. So I've yet to have all of them come back. I don't have the pre-recorded content back yet, but as you know, they've all said that's what we're going to try and do. That's what we're going to try and do.
It's going to be really exciting. I'm really looking forward to joining you guys and literally seeing what's discussed, what's covered, and seeing this different approach. Something nice touch to what's been a pretty tricky year, and we all felt it almost death by meetings online. So really looking forward to it. Okay. So I think we've covered everything to give our viewers and centres an insight into what the retention convention is going to be this year. I guess all that's left to say is the date, which is going to be 3rd this year.
I bring that up. So 3rd of December.
Excellent.
We're starting at 1 p.m. because we're streaming internationally. So 1 p.m. means that Europe can use it at 2 p.m. and onwards, and the East Coast of America can join from 8 a.m. And I've got to tell you, James, we're filming this or recording this on, I've lost track of the days, Wednesday? What day is it? Whatever day it is. So far, I looked at the numbers this morning, we have 808 people signed up from 235 identified companies. And what I mean by that is they've used their company email rather than a Gmail or a Hotmail. So 235 companies, and so far from 30 different countries.
Wow.
So big audience, international audience. I'm absolutely thrilled.
No, excellent. And we're really pleased to be part of it this year. So what I'll say is I'll put a link for any of our Active IQ customers to share with their staff, their learners. For anybody who's interested in attending, it is completely free of charge to attend this year. And I'll put that link in so our customers, clients, colleagues, etc., can all sign up to that. So we'll get that out and start promoting that. And let's get those numbers over 1,000, which I'm sure is going to happen probably in the next 24 hours or so anyway. So, No, it's going to be excellent. Okay, well, I've used up enough of your time. You're a busy guy. You've got a big project in hand, so I will free you up for the rest of the day and just say thank you very much for taking the time out to speak to me, Paul. And yeah, really looking forward to the retention convention this year.
James, thank you, and thank you to Active IQ for being a sponsor and promoting and investing in the event. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Excellent stuff. Take care, Paul. Great speaking to you.